So yes, sir. What's your last name, brother? Just so I can post it on the YouTube later on.
It's Van De Laar, so it's V.
What's your last name, brother? Just so I can post it on the YouTube later on.
It's Van De Laar, so it's VAN
Okay.
space DE
The
space LAAR.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Copy that. Okay. So we're gonna take a few moments to let people come in.
Words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry if there's a little bit of noise in the background. Like I said, I tried to find words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry if there's a little bit of noise in the background. Like I said, I tried to find a quiet area as much as I could, but.
Oh no, you good, brother. Are you good to go? Let me see. You good to go? Let me see. You good to go? Let's see. 2029. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go to the corner. Let's see. People are already sending in the likes. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Perfect. Good to see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's see.
I definitely promoted it as much as I could.
Look, that's always appreciated. Absolutely.
Promoted it as much as I could.
Look, that's always appreciated. Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely. So yeah, I got a request from viewers. Okay, I'll look into that later. Okay. All right, brother, we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Got 9 people in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Will Call, where your team, your favorite players, your sports are the star. You are the focal point. And today we have a very special guest of mine. That's my brother, Nathan Van De Laar. Very special guest of mine. That's my brother, Nathan Van De Laar.
So we live in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. So about 10 minutes away from the Peace Bridge border, about 45 minutes away from Orchard Park.
Oh, wow, okay.
My grandfather immigrated from the Netherlands in 1952. Right away, when the Bills got a football team, he became a diehard fan.
Yeah.
Of course, passed it through generations. Now, my dad's probably a bigger Bills fan than I am, biggest Bills fan I know, and we make sure to catch every game together. And definitely, all of our texts are about Bills or Sabers or whatever.
Awesome. You know, it's interesting because watching the Buffalo Bills, you know, as a huge football fan like I am, you know, just it's amazing to see like them, you know, catapult themselves into like the high end tier of the National Football League. You know, for much of my lifetime, you know, I'm in my late 20s. I'm 29. Just for much of my lifetime, they've been the bottom feeder of that division, much less. You know, the AFC East and the league. They've had their unbelievable talent. They've had great defensive linemen. You know, Nate Clements on the opposite in the secondary. Just they've had great contributors, but they just couldn't put it together, especially under center. But now you have an elite talent like Josh Allen. And, you know, I did a tally earlier in 2010 for the 2010 season. Every game that the Bills played was in the 1:00 Eastern time frame, and last season they had. Including, of course, like the Thursday night game that everybody plays, they had 8 games after the 4 p.m. Eastern time frame. So that means you're playing in, you know, a lot of those games were in prime time. Monday night, Sunday night football, of course, Thursday night. And, like, they played in the season opener on Thursday night. So really just it's just amazing to see, like, where this franchise has come. Obviously, you know, we didn't get the opportunity to see this franchise, you know, with Jim Kelly or Bruce Smith and Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed. But just to really see them now, they've done an unbelievable job in the front office. And it's just, it's like, so how do you, like, what has the journey been like for you as a fan, even, you know, at this stage of your life, just seeing where they come from to where they are now?
For sure. So I didn't really become the biggest football fan. I was more hockey until about 2015.
Right.
And pretty much right after we signed Mario Williams, I really started watching the Bills a little bit more.
Right.
And, of course, through E.J. Manuel, Tyrod, and then finally getting to Josh, it has been a ride for sure. And a lot of it is just putting trust in the front office. You know, Brandon Beane has done an incredible job of drafting players to put around Josh Allen. Maybe not so well at the offensive line. It's a point we could touch on later. But acquiring Stephon Diggs, the Dawson Knox draft pick I loved. And then, of course, he's really trying to buff the defense now. Of course, adding Von Miller last year, and Greg Rousseau's young, Boogie Basham's young, and then it's just guys that want to be here. So they've really established a culture that they never had until McDermott came in, and I'm really enjoying that. They can't say enough about those two guys and what they've done for the organization.
Yeah, just and it's a famous saying. It takes a village. It always starts in the draft, especially in the National Football League. For as many stars as you have on a lot of these different teams, they build in the draft. The NBA is a little different. The culture is different because you get the star players in the offseason via trade and free agency. But in any sport, really, especially in the National Football League, it's about the draft. And they've done an unbelievable job. Of course, you could supplement those things in the offseason with free agency and trades, but it's been a remarkable run for them. Even though they had a disappointing end to the season, despite being 13-3, the playoff loss in the second round. I wanted to get your take on, just what you've seen from the team this year and what they need to improve on. I looked at, certain things that, like wide receiver was probably one of the more noteworthy things for me. I looked at the tallies. Stephon Diggs was amazing yet again. 108 receptions for 1,429 yards and 11 scores. And, the second place guy was at the receiver spot was Gabriel Davis at 48 receptions. So that's a huge drop-off statistically.
Steep decline, right?
He's steep decline. And third place, Dawson Knox, as you mentioned, the tight end. Even though he's a Pro Bowl, he's been a stellar addition for the team. Only have 517 yards. Granted, like I said, it's the tight end position, so there's only so much you can do. And, of course, you mentioned the offensive line. Just, the front end, like you said, the front office mentioned to the fact that, that's something we need to build up. And just anything else that you would say they should focus on in this offseason?
Of course. Well, last year was honestly probably one of the most mentally grueling years I've ever seen for a football team. Just the city, the Buffalo Bills really epitomized the city of Buffalo. And in May, when we had the tragic mass shooting at the Tops, and then go forward into the earlier weeks, and then you see Von Miller tear his ACL. You see that massive snowstorm forcing them to move one of their home games to Detroit. And then, of course, the DeMar Hamlin incident that we all saw January 2nd. They really had a lot on their minds, and you mix that with a first-year offensive coordinator. Josh Allen had a UCL injury. So, of course, football gods weren't on their side. I'll definitely say that. Like you were touching on, going into the offseason, I believe that last year the Bills put a little bit too much weight on Gabriel Davis. Of course, a 4-touchdown performance in last year's AFC divisional game. So a lot of people have their hope apply for him. But you know what? It's growing steps with the wide receiver, right? They're not going to just come in and make a huge impact. So I truly think next year our biggest additions, well, not really additions, but guys we already had on the team. I think Khalil Shakir, the wide receiver out of Boise State, is going to have an incredible breakout season. I can honestly see him starting at the slot. For the very few opportunities he got this year, he created I'm pretty sure he was first in separation rate or separation success percentage in rookie wide receivers, which is super impressive for a fifth rounder, right? It's just another indication of being great drafting. But I honestly think in the first round, we got to go wide receiver or we have to go interior offensive line.
Right. I totally agree with that. Just and I know like I said, it's I know it can sound nitpicky because they've been an excellent team the last couple of years. Several 10-win seasons in a row. After just the futility for much of the 2000s and early 2010s, but when I see a team like the Cincinnati Bengals is so stacked at the wide receiver position, obviously it helps we have an elite quarterback like Joe Burrow, but you got to help you continue to build around the quarterback because Josh Allen is their greatest asset. So that's what catapults any NFL team is to have that quarterback in place. So it's just I'm eager to see them. I've always been a fan of seeing teams that have struggled for years make it to the playoffs. I think it's just good for the league, just to see them up and coming. So
it's a great success story. I'm really in the NFC. I'm rooting for the Lions a lot this year.
Right. Me too. Oh yes.
Very likable team. Yeah. Very great fan base. When I actually, my dad and I went to the Bills game in Detroit that got moved because of the snowstorm. And I'd say a good 20% of the seats were actually filled up by Lions fans, and they could not have been any more accommodating. They were super nice people, glad to talk. Of course, Detroit and Buffalo share that bond, right, where it's just struggling sports teams for years, and it builds them together.
Yeah, just like I said, I'm with you on the Detroit team. It's crazy that, just off topic real quick, just how the front offices really did not take advantage of generational talents like Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford. Really did not take advantage. Like another franchise that picked so well everywhere else. They just couldn't get the quarterback done for years, amongst other things. But like I said, the future's bright for Detroit, but more so Buffalo. I'm just eager to see what they're going to be moving forward. Now, this is why we have you on, brother. We have this transition to the National Hockey League. Huge thing. Wanted to get the Bills out the way, but I know this is the business right here. This is our business. So, but as you know, just before we touch on the Sabres, obviously this was the NHL trade deadline. It was a very hectic week. There's unbelievable. There's so many transactions. Like, really trying to do my best to keep up with all of it. It was a whirlwind.
It was a wild week, right. I will tell you that. Notifications on my phone nonstop.
Yes.
After this.
Man, absolutely. Just and of course, unlike anything other, they said there was 43 trades made in the 14 days before the trade deadline day, which over the last 10 years, the average was like 18. So just like
right.
almost like 3 times, just like you said, a whirlwind just of transactions. But obviously, none were more eye-opening for Patrick Kane going to the New York Rangers. What are your thoughts on that, real quick, before we really get into the Sabres? What are your thoughts on that trade and how?
Sure, I have loved Patrick Kane his whole career. Definitely one of the most entertaining players to watch in the NHL, maybe ever. Probably the second best player I've seen with his hands. Only second to Pavel Datsyuk, that would be. Patrick Kane, native of Buffalo, New York. Just want to throw that out there.
I got to, represent.
Upcoming unrestricted free agent. I know there have been rumors rolling around that he's wanted to end his career in Buffalo, but back to the Rangers. They are really going for it. Of course, picking up Tarasenko earlier and then picking up a great guy like Kane. If you can have a guy like Patrick Kane fit into your second or third line, you are destined to make the Cup Finals.
Yeah.
While he hasn't been performing as well offensively this year, he isn't great defensively, I'll say that. But Chicago was just honestly a disaster this year. They're of course going for Connor Bedard, first overall pick there. That would be sweet, but it wasn't a fun year in Chicago, I'll tell you that.
They're such a far ways away from what they were in the previous decade, winning 3 Stanley Cups.
Dynasty, right?
Absolutely. Took the words right out of my mouth. Just on top of his championships, obviously, Patrick Kane's his trophy case is very full at this point. What is his legacy to you in the National Hockey League? Because it's phenomenal to me for a sport that's historically been so dominated culturally and historically by the Canadian population, just to have an American-born player just really make his take to that high of a level. What do you think his legacy specifically is in the National Hockey League?
At the end of the day, once he hangs his skates up, I think he's going to go down as the greatest American-born player in NHL history. Ever since coming into the league in 2007, he has absolutely been dominating. He's always top 20 in points, always an entertaining player to watch, always representing the United States. And currently, I can't think of a better player right now that could catch up to him. Maybe Austin Matthews in the future. However, he's having a little bit of a down year. But Patrick Kane's dominance and honestly his legacy is going to go down. It will be a number retirement in Chicago. He'll be a guaranteed Hall of Famer. And nothing much more I could say about that. He will go down as the greatest U.S.-born player.
What would you say? And forgive me for asking this. I know a lot of people get tired about the GOAT conversation, the top 10s and stuff like that. Just like for a guy who's really paid attention to his career for much of your life, just what do you consider him like a top 10 player, like top 20? Like I said, I know it's historically dominated by Canadian greats, but where would you say a realistic number would be for him is?
If I were to really think about it, I would say top 15.
Yeah, I agree.
Once it's all said and done, that is, of course, unless his legacy kind of, goes down. He has an off year in New York. Maybe he comes back there for another 2-3 years and it's just not as well. But I do think as it stands right now, if you were to hang him up, he'd be a top 15 player ever.
Yeah, I was thinking that because just early on, just I wanted to see what your gauge was because I really trust your knowledge of it. So and speaking of Rangers, I don't know if you heard about Stephen A. Smith's comments about the Rangers. It was a quick snippet about on First Take. I think he was asking about the state of New York teams. He was basically saying, the only thing I know about hockey is just that the puck is black. And just I know it was humorous on the surface level, but, when I was looking at it, just it's amazing to me how the United States has not prioritized hockey. Now we talk a lot of bad stuff about soccer, how boring it is and stuff like that. But hockey is far more exciting. Just it's amazing to me how it doesn't have the same population or the popularity in that sport. Now I know you have to compete with football, basketball, baseball. Historically, it's American-born sports, but hockey really has such a great and powerful fan base, such a rich history. I didn't know if you had heard about those comments. What were your thoughts on them?
I did. You know what? It's a little upsetting, just because ESPN is the #1 flagship for NHL hockey games now.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying.
Especially for a guy working for that station, you want to promote it. You want to get your network going well. Yes. But I do think that's not. I am not going to put the full blame on Stephen A. Smith. I am going to put some of the blame on Commissioner Gary Bettman. I do think over the last 5-10 years, Bettman has done a horrible job marketing the sport.
Yeah,
I'm a huge hockey fan. I'll watch as many games as I can. And I'm scrolling through Instagram a few weeks ago, and I see that there's an outdoor game that night, like a stadium series. It was the Hurricanes.
Oh, I love that series. Oh my goodness.
I absolutely love watching these outdoor games, but that's something you should know about a month prior, 2 months prior, and I had no idea until the day of. And I just think that's really poor marketing. I think that they need to grow their game. They need to encourage all these superstars to kind of come out, have more of a personality, like Connor McDavid, Nikita Kucherov.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All of those guys to just kind of be themselves and promote them a little bit more, right? Because honestly, Connor McDavid is one of the greatest generational talents I've ever seen in
he has dominated.
Incredible.
My goodness.
It's incredible to watch. I'm watching the Sabres game. They have a little graphic of the NHL points leaders. McDavid's at 121. I think the second guy was at 93.
Right. And like you said, we have Big Clem, just one of my followers. He was saying hockey's the most underrated sport, and he agrees with you. Said the marketing is just not good as other sports. And I know WNBA just the WNBA is not on the same stratosphere as NHL, but just both have huge potential. They have the elite stars in both of those sports, both of those leagues, but it comes down to the marketing, and it's just and it doesn't help when ESPN is the flagship network for NHL, but you have all the games on ESPN Plus, so it's a paid subscription. They're not even on when I was in elementary school, it was Thursday night hockey and stuff like that. All the games were premier games on ESPN. Stanley Cup was on ABC. It was a regular thing. Then when I got in high school and college, it was on NBC. NBC did as well as they could with it, but it's just not what it needs to be in the marketing category, and it's a sad thing.
I completely agree.
Yeah, it's just but and it's frustrating to me because going in the southeastern part of the United States, it's a football dominated area. We watch our basketball and baseball is heavy too, but just it's just really it should do more. And some more comments that hockey has less history, but the impact it's made is amazing. I agree. One of my guys, Sevens, just said hockey doesn't have the strength down south, and out west is terrible. So those are key areas because you look at just in football, you have California is a rich recruiting bed in football. Down south, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, just rich in football recruiting. Like you said, you don't have the same amount of exposure, and it's sad because it's such an exciting sport. Obviously just not the same, but I had 2 video games. I had NHL 07 on PlayStation Portable. I played it all the time and stuff like that. Then I had 2K9 on PS3. So it was just, it's a beautiful sport, and it's just a fast-paced game, high energy. And they pack the house in the playoffs too, just like basketball. But,
absolutely.
But it's just it's an unbelievable experience just watching on TV. And being in the South, in Louisiana, we had pro teams, semi-pro teams, but they just didn't have the economic support. Now it's slowly coming back, but it's not where it needs to be. What do you recommend outside of marketing? Is there anything else that the NHL can implement just to make it more popular in this country?
Honestly, like I said, I feel like marketing their players a lot more would be huge for the game. You're looking at Trevor Zegras on the Anaheim Ducks. He's probably one of the more entertaining players to watch. He's always doing these generational moves, and like I said, I feel like he's just rotting on the West Coast. He's not getting really much exposure, and it's a little disappointing to see that. I do agree completely with your ESPN Plus thing. That whole thing is honestly upsetting to see, right? Because it's a paid subscription, and people aren't getting to watch the games that they want to watch.
And it's NFL is the most popular sport in the country, But I mean, you could watch it on cable. And this is the money making, and like Tevin also said in the comments, there's also not a high school drive for it. Like even in a college, so it's not going to be without a high school drive. It's not going to be a college drive because in the Southeastern Conference, we don't even compete in hockey.
That's right.
So it's like all the north, like in the Frozen Four, is Minnesota, Maine, just to name a couple of schools. Boston College, like these are powerhouses, but they're all up north. I know it's a colder sport.
You're getting the Northeast and you're getting Minnesota.
Absolutely, yeah. That's it. That's the list, as they say. That's the list. But like I said, I like a lot of my family didn't watch hockey. I mean, they watch it seldomly. I mean, I watch it when I like it. I really do. But it's hard to just when it's not marketed, and it's just like not the same amount of excitement regionally. But just I want to talk about finally get to the Sabres. Just like some high points. Just you guys have an unbelievable core, man. Just I can't speak enough. Like we said, people talk so much about Connor McDavid, and rightfully so. The guy's a generational. He's just a unicorn player right now. But Tage Thompson he's fourth in goals. Last time I checked. 5th in points in the league. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, you got to represent, brother. Look, I love that. That's marketing. You've done better than marketing already. That's marketing.
Yeah, of course.
That's better than marketing. And obviously, you got Rasmus Dahlin, just Owen Power. Just such a powerful young core. So, and really just doing research, I'm really just impressed with how they stayed afloat, post Jack Eichel era, for the people who don't know in the comments, what can you explain just how that transpired, just the Jack from him coming to Buffalo and him the relationship deteriorating in Buffalo?
Absolutely. I got to explain this to so many people when I first came to university and of course in high school because nobody really understood why we were so eager to get rid of a generational talent in Jack Eichel, but so pretty much the 2015 NHL draft featured Connor McDavid as a consensus number 1, Jack Eichel as a consensus number 2.
Right.
So, of course, that whole season was tanked for McDavid, tanked for Eichel. Buffalo actually finished last place in the league but lost the draft lottery to Edmonton, hence McDavid went to Edmonton, Eichel went to Buffalo. Eichel had his time here in Buffalo. He did great. He did what he could. And the general manager in 2017 really tried going for it. They traded all of their prospects for guys like Evander Kane, Ryan O'Reilly, Robin Leonard, and it just kind of was a disaster.
Yeah.
Nothing really worked out. A lot of players were, like Ryan O'Reilly said, he was losing his love for the game just playing it in Buffalo, and it's really hard to watch, especially going through, at that time, what was a 7-year playoff drought that now transpired to 11 years. Hopefully that ends soon.
Right, of course, yeah.
But for sure. And then late in the 2020 season, Jack Eichel suffered a neck injury. It was kind of a herniated disc in his neck. So per the NHL's collective bargaining agreement, the teams are allowed to decide what course he goes for his surgery. So he could either get a surgery that he wants, or if the team prefers rehab, they can let him do rehab. So Eichel went to the team doctors and said, listen, I want to do something called an artificial disc replacement. Right. So they would have replaced the herniated disc in his neck with an artificial disc. Had never been done on an athlete before. And of course, with a $10 million player, the Sabres are going to be skeptical of that. So they said, no, we want you to rehab. And Eichel kind of just went MIA. As a team captain, left the facilities, went to Florida, kind of was just rehabbing and demanded a trade.
Right.
So at that point, it really became all about a culture. It was a new coach, new general manager. Kevin Adams came in, and he was trying to go the Buffalo Bills approach and build a culture, have a team of guys that want to be here. Yeah. So the whole Jack Eichel trade mill kind of went for about 2 months with rumors of Calgary, Colorado, Vegas, and he finally ended up in Vegas. So we traded Eichel for Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuch, a 2022 first, and a 2023 second, and words cannot describe how much I thank Kevin Adams every day for making that trade. You get Alex Tuch, he's a Syracuse, New York native, born and raised a Buffalo Sabres fan, really wants to be there, has really rejuvenated a spark in that first line with Jeff Skinner and Tage Thompson. And Peyton Krebs has kind of turned into, I don't want to say a mini Brad Marchand, but that's what he's kind of turning into. He's a guy that's going to get you about 40 points a season, but he's pesky. He's a guy that's always going to get under your skin, and for a small, scrawny guy like Krebs, you don't really see that coming out of him, but he's really transpired into an incredible player, and And I wish Jack Eichel the best of luck in Vegas. I'm glad he's doing healthy. I'm glad he's doing better. I wasn't a fan of Eichel at the end. I'll admit that, just because of anger towards the franchise, really, the long playoff drought, and just your captain kind of going MIA. But they the final rebuild was to just blow everything up, trade guys like Reinhardt, trade guys like Eichel, and just start over again.
Right. You know, it reminds me of just like, though it's not quite the same. I look at the Dallas Cowboys in the late 80s, early 90s. You know, when Jerry Jones, he took over the team in 1989, just, you know, they were just a mess as a franchise. His first year, they got Jimmy Johnson. They went 1-15. Of course, they ended up getting Emmitt Smith and stuff like that. And they just drafted really well. And I bring it up because they traded Herschel Walker, who was a star running back, to the Vikings that time. They hit on the draft picks. And the beautiful thing about hockey is just like you have, the farming system and stuff like baseball and stuff like that. And they really hit on these guys. You know, I'm just excited to see where they go because, like I said, I know there's several games over 500 currently, but I'm just excited to see. We talked about so much about Connor McDavid, but Tage Thompson is unbelievable this year.
Absolutely
unbelievable. I can't say it enough. And and I've said it several times in the past on my live show, just if Wayne Gretzky played a more popular American sport, he would be the undisputed GOAT of all. He's the most underappreciated GOAT in the history of sports, in my opinion. Because his jerseys retired league wide.
Absolutely.
Michael Jordan's jersey not retired league wide. Just to put it in perspective.
Right.
But it just goes back to just the popularity. I'm just so frustrated with ESPN, FS1. These are the anchors of American media for the sports world. So all the talk shows, the hot take debate shows, you can't give hockey a little love. I know a lot of it, is determined by ratings and what people say online, but there's so much beautiful things going on in the sports world and in the hockey world. I can't say enough of how dominant this Sabres team is going to be.
Absolutely. They are currently the youngest team in the NHL, despite having Craig Anderson. He's a 41-year-old goalie. He's kind of like the godfather of the team, holding all these kids in check, right? And you think Dylan Cousins, he's a third-year second-line center, sorry. And he's a veteran. He's one of the older guys on the team. And it's just so incredibly exciting. And if you don't mind, I just want to touch on Tage Thompson a little bit.
Absolutely, I know.
When they traded Ryan O'Reilly to the Blues, it was for Tage Thompson and a first-round pick in 2019. Early on into the season, that was looking great. The Blues were in last place. Tage Thompson was kind of developing nicely in Rochester. And then, of course, everything kind of fell through. The Blues ended up winning the Cup that year, and Tage Thompson was still in Rochester.
Yes.
And the next year, they brought him up to the NHL, and I will say straight up, he was one of the most frustrating players I've ever watched in my entire life.
Okay. Yeah.
He is 6'7" frame. He was struggling. He looked slow on his feet. He was playing like he was a 6-foot player, or 5'11" player. He was trying to toe drag. He wasn't using his speed. He wasn't using his strength or anything like that. And it was just tough to watch. He was just a tall kid that scores 6 goals.
Right.
Bring in Don Granato, the current head coach, who coached him on the U.S. National Development Team program. All of a sudden, Tage breaks out into this first-line center. He had 38 goals, 38 assists last year.
Yes.
Just an unprecedented jump. Something I had never seen before. The only comparison I have in sports of that big of a jump would be Josh Allen from 2019 to 2020. We're so blessed as Buffalo sports fans just to be able to have both teams being good at the same time. And it has been years since I can say that.
Yeah, and it just shows the value of coaching. One thing I said about college athletics, it's largely about the coach. Now recruiting is paramount. Just don't get me wrong. But even if it's the younger amateur teams, that coach makes a powerful difference. And I think to combine the technique with the physical gifts to merge it together, that's such a powerful thing to do. One of my followers made an interesting comment. She said, she loves the way you talk. You should be a commentator.
Thank you very much.
So she says, you know your stuff too. You're so well prepared. I agree. That's why we got you on, brother. You're the star of the show.
Thank you.
And it's like, I'm trying my best to really continually get into hockey. Just I've got into it in the past. Just it's really tough down south because you don't not marketed well, and there's so many other sports that dominate the conversation. And like family and friends played hockey. I mean, family and friends played football, basketball, baseball. But just it's such a beautiful sport. And like, of course, the Sabers is another reason to get excited because we have we have a college goalie prospect that you're very excited about. Devin Levi just, and I was really reading something interesting about him. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see if I can find it. If he wins the Richter Trophy this year, he's gonna be the first ever goalie in NCAA history to complete the feat. And like he had like a 38 goal shutout, like a 38 shot shutout, like recent.
Yeah, honestly, I've never seen anything as crazy. I follow a guy on Twitter. His name's Chris Baker. He focuses on Sabres prospects, and I feel like every 3 days I get a tweet from him. It's like a 35 save shutout from Devin Levi as Northeastern improves to this, and he's currently up to, I believe, 14 shutouts in his NCAA career in 24 wins. So out of his 24 wins, 14 of them have been shutouts, and I've been watching some Northeastern games, and they are not a strong team offensively. They are not a strong team defensively, but they are completely held up by Devin Levi, of course, the 2021 Mike Richter Award winner. I can totally see him going for the Hobie Baker Award this year.
Yeah, there was chance like in the Boston Garden, there were chances of MVP chance. Oh my goodness!
Right in the Beanpot tournament.
Exactly. So it just, like you said before, when you acquire assets like that to that high level of what the Sabres have been doing recently, the future's bright. Like, what is your timeline for them? Like as far as winning a Stanley Cup, or what is your expectation for them in, like, let's say the next 3 to 5 years?
For sure. So going into this year, of course, right at the deadline, they are about 2 points out of a playoff spot. They are in the playoffs when it comes to points percentage. Mm-hmm. It would be incredible. They're way ahead of schedule if they make the playoffs this year. I totally expect them to, if they make the playoffs, to walk into Boston, walk into Carolina, and get swept. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even be a shock to me, but I'd be completely fine with it. It's all growing pains. It's like when the Bills went to the playoffs for the first time and lose 10-3 to Jacksonville. It sucks, but it's the experience that you need, right?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, being the youngest team in the NHL, they have so many prospects coming through as well. You look at Matthew Savoy, Noah Oslin, Yuri Kulich, Alexander Kisikov, and now even Ryan Johnson and Devin Levi coming from college, hopefully next year. And I think once Levi and their current goalie, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's a very young, promising prospect as well, once they come through, I say give it 2 to 3 years before they're in serious contention. Maybe even next year if they can get it together.
Yeah, because they have so many guys in the top 10 statistically this year, like really just like 2 guys in the top 5, really just in terms of goals and points total. And I think if they continue to market it well, this is a story that they need to keep up with. So whether Absolutely. It's First Take, Undisputed, Speak for like just whatever sports show it is that's not hockey dominated. This is a storyline that needs to be kept up with. If they want to draw a comparison, think about the Oklahoma City Thunder back in the 2010s, early 2010s, with their big three, so to speak.
That's right.
Like just if they want to put it in perspective, like this is really, and I keep bringing it up, brother, but just it's so exciting to see that. Just obviously in both sports for the Bills, but especially in hockey, because the Bills are going to get airtime regardless. They're going to get watch time and popularity. Especially they're really hitting on all cylinders. Not to mention football is just such a popular sport in the country right now. But just this is something to keep an eye. I'm really excited about your team's future.
You and I both.
Yeah,
man,
just and I had a parting shot. I know like my favorite hockey team is the Penguins. I'm a Sid the Kid guy. I love watching like Malkin, like when they won the Cup years ago. Just I have the hat in the closet, but. Just I'm just excited for you guys.
I'm loving it, especially with Kevin Adams. Like I was saying earlier, that when our general manager was Tim Murray back in 2016, we were trading our prospects such as Joel Armia and JT Comfort to try and get good right now. But we weren't in a position to do that. Right now, we're not in a position to do that either. hence why Adams didn't really try and risk his future during the trade deadline. Of course, adding a guy like Jacob Chikrin would have been great. Adding a guy like Timo Meier would have been great. But what he's doing right now is trying to not sell the farm to get good right now when they're currently not in that position.
Yeah, and just like you said, the more realistic approach, like fans can really get antsy, especially if the team's been struggling for quite a while.
Absolutely.
And just and then the thing is, when you've been struggling for years, the culture change is so paramount. You need guys that are with edgy, like you could have edgy guys, but are they determined? Are they disciplined? And and the talent, of course, is paramount. But just it's just trust the process. I know that's a tired phrase, but you got to just allow the process to take place and take shape. And I think they're definitely going in the right direction.
I agree with that for sure.
But yes, man, brother, I just want to tell you thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
us.
man. I'm glad to be on.
Yeah.
I'm down to talk sports anytime with you.
Absolutely. I'll definitely keep you on my list. I'm gonna send you the link once everything gets processed. I'm gonna send you the link and I'm gonna post it on YouTube and we'll go from there.
Awesome, man.
All right, brother. You have a blessed night. Always look. We already have a huge fan. We love to have you back. He's gonna be back. Trust me. He's gonna be back. He's gonna be back, brother. Always a pleasure, homie. We'll catch up.
Love it, man.
All right,
go Bills and go Sabers, man.
Yes, sir. Look, the future is bright. You too, brother.